kid. For nothing. Now I think it's time to waste you.
Come on, man. I got a bomb here. I'll kill her. I'll blow this whole place up.
Go ahead. I don't shot her. Hey, just relax, amigo. You want to talk? We'll talk. I'm a sucker for good conversation.
I don't want to talk to you. Now you bring in the television cameras in here now. Come on, bring it in.
Can't do that.
Why?
I don't deal with psychos. I put them away. You're a disease. And I'm the cure.
Hello and welcome to Vintage Pop. I'm your host, Greg May. We are back for episode 11 of Vintage Pop with Rich LaFascia. We're here at 1984 in Wilmington. What's up, Rich?
How you doing, Greg? Glad to be here again.
Yeah, we just about a little under 2 weeks ago, we had our summer sequel, part 2, Jaws. No, I did Jaws with Dan.
Correct.
We were going to do Jaws 3 initially, I think.
Nah, well, it's not a good movie. So I don't want to do anything that I think we're just going to be like...
crapping all over.
I also don't want to watch it again.
I would only watch it if there was a like a 35mm print somewhere.
I always liked, like I've heard rumors over the years about other scripts for it. Like John Hughes apparently was involved at one point. The whole Jaws 3 People Zero script. And another one was Richard Matheson, who did a lot of stuff like that Twilight Zone episode that ended up being made for the movie on the airplane. I forgot, Terror 30,000
something like that.
Yeah.
There, the whole that was going to be a lot of SCTV and National Lampoon people too.
It was going to be funny.
Yeah, and they didn't want to do it because they figured like that would be the definitive end of Jaws at that point.
Spielberg was one person who commented and said, "Don't make fun of the series."
Really?
Yeah, someone else did too. I forget. I think it was because the guy who wrote the screenplays for Jaws 2 and 3 and 1 is on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast.
Okay, yeah. And he also has a book called Inside Jaws that came out.
The Jaws Log.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the guy that directed 3.
I don't think he directed...
Carl Gottlieb. Yeah, I think he directed 3.
Okay.
In any event, we did Psycho 3 and Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yes.
So, and we're back again for, I guess we'll call this the... Sylvester Stallone Spectacular. I don't know.
The Stallone double feature. Made some lesser-known Stallone movies from the 80s. Not Rambo movies, not Rocky movies.
I would definitely say about the first movie, definitely lesser-known Nighthawks. I think if you are a genre film fan, though, and you like action movies, you've probably heard of Cobra before.
Cobra's better known.
Yeah, Cobra was financially successful too. Yeah,
they both did actually. Nighthawks did well. I looked it up. I think it made like $50 million in.
It was off of like a $5 million budget.
Yeah. At that point, I remember that was big when it was on TV.
Yeah,
but we'll get into that later.
So we'll start off with some news you actually brought to my attention. Was it Scream Factory or Shout?
Scream Factory has announced a lot of new releases. A lot. Oh, Shout Factory, but Scream Factory specifically, they just announced a bunch. Well, I think we should talk about some of Shout Factory. So they're both the same company. They put out Blu-ray releases, really good editions. Do you have any of their editions? I have their Sleepaway Camp, which it's one of those Blu-rays. Like I know you like VHS a lot,
yeah,
and I kind of grew up with VHS, so I feel like I appreciate when they clean up some of these old movies. So Sleepaway Camp, I lived with that VHS.
Yeah.
For years. And there's scenes in that on the VHS that are so muddy. In particular, the scene where the little kids get killed in the sleeping bags. For years, you couldn't tell what that was. It's just a murky cut.
Right.
But the Blu-ray version's like a revelation on Scream Factory, and it's so cleaned up. You can see things in the back of scenes, like stuff that's written on the walls that you never saw before.
I have the Anchor Bay, the first Anchor Bay DVD release that came out. That's what I have. I don't have Sleepaway Camp on VHS, but a lot of my horror DVDs, I'll tell you, the Shout Factory release I do have, and I did a show on it a couple months ago about Ernie Kovacs, who was like a big time television person, got his starts in Philadelphia back in the 40s and 50s. Shout Factory put together a amazing box set. I actually just saw it. I was in Princeton on Friday in the Princeton Record Exchange. They sell out of print DVDs and stuff like that too. They had it there for like $34 or something like that. But yeah, they put together really good classic DVDs.
Yeah. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 has an edition on Scream Factory. It's pretty great. A lot of bells and whistles. You got a work print. You got deleted scenes.
Really?
Yeah, they really go all out when they put out. And they do special editions of movies now. Because like all your classics have special editions, pretty much. I know
they came out with a To Live and Die in L.A. Blu-ray within the last.
It's the one I've been meaning to get. I have a list of releases by them.
The problem with that is it doesn't have the William Friedkin commentary.
Was that on an early?
That's release? On the DVD. I actually had both in my hand. I was at FYE at the Concord Mall, and I had the Shout Factory Live and Die in L.A. Blu-ray, and I had the Anchor Bay or whoever put out the DVD, and the DVD actually had more special features, I guess, in one of those rare cases.
Okay. So Scream Factory just announced a bunch of new releases, and I figure we should go over that and some Shout Factory ones. So I'll just read them off. You tell me if you've seen them, what you think. Saturday the 14th.
Never seen it.
Early 80s goofy parody kind of horror movies. Jeffrey Tambor's in there.
Oh wow,
it's not bad. Credit. It's not one of my favorites. But I remember this one that ran on TV a lot. Single White Female.
I haven't seen that either.
No. I have a lot of fun. Anytime a girl gets a short haircut, I like to refer to her as Single White Female because the one character. So it's about Jennifer Jason Leigh starts stalking Bridget Fonda.
I think I do know about it now.
Yeah, she cuts her hair like her. So anytime a girl does that, I'm like, Single White Female. And it's a good movie to reference. People in the that was a really big movie. Yeah. A lot of people saw that. Early 90s. Brian De Palma's Obsession, which I don't think I've ever seen, from 76.
No, that's a really early
and hard to get.
Is that might have been right after Carrie?
I think it's right before.
Really?
Same year.
Okay.
They're right around each other.
Back to back with De Palma. It's Obsession, it's Carrie, and I think Sisters.
Sisters is before both of them.
Okay, so that would probably be the initial. Because Dress to Kill had to be like 80.
Dress to Kill was 80. I'm going to pull up De Palma.
Blowout was probably 81.
That's correct.
That's a great movie.
That's a great movie. I think I
have the Criterion Blue of that.
So Obsession came out before Carrie, same year in 76. After Carrie is The Fury in 78. And right before Obsession is Phantom of the Paradise, which I haven't seen. I've been meaning to. It's supposed to be really...
The Fury's been kicking around on Netflix for a while.
Have you seen it?
No, the trailer looks like it's much more exciting than what the movie probably is.
It's way too long. It's him trying telekinesis again from another popular novel. Mm-hmm. I forget the authors. John Ferris, who was like a third-rate Stephen King. Mm-hmm. But it's, again, telekinetic characters. There's special effects like scanners, but there's not enough. But there's not enough of them. It's 2 hours. It's, I think, Amy Irving's. No. Let me double-check.
Kirk Douglas is in it, isn't he?
He is.
He's like the dad.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
I don't know. Is it one of those, like...
Amy Irving is in it, yeah.
Like slow burn, like 70s, like dramas, though?
There's too much of people just talking. I don't know. You should watch it.
Because I watch a lot of 70s nonsense like that I probably would be...
I watched it recently, and I just like... There's a couple great special effects scenes, which I'm not going to ruin here. But there's definitely some stuff that's worth seeing for that, but you just muddle through a lot for it. So, back to the releases. So... That was Obsession. Here's one I think you like. It's Charles Bronson, 10 to Midnight.
Yes.
See, I rewatched this recently. I thought it was, I get the appeal. It's a real slimy.
Oh, it is.
Canon Pictures.
Yeah, it's early Canon. Mid-80s Canon, maybe. I don't know.
I just thought it was a slog to get through.
I caught it so way when On Demand first was kind of blowing up, and there was like FearNet. You could watch horror movies on there, and they had like another thing called like Cineplex and a couple other things.
Yeah.
Those were all free rental services. If you had a subscription to Comcast Cable, you could get these movies. I saw 10 to Midnight for the first time on that, and that was a wild time. I was probably like 13 or 14 when I saw 10 to Midnight the first time, and I watched it just because I was like, Charles Bronson, Death Wish 2, Death Wish 3, Death Wish.
Yeah, and, right around then.
And I mean, it's in the same wheelhouse. It's just a little more... sleazier, probably.
I guess. I just think it's a little boring.
The guy, have you ever seen Cruising? William Friedkin's Cruising?
It's been a long time.
So the guy who's the killer in 10 to Midnight is one of the guys who's dressed up like a woman who comes in. There's a scene, Joe Spinell, who's also in Nighthawks, who we'll talk about later.
Bring that up.
Joe Spinell has like a very small bit part in Cruising. He plays like a beat cop. He's just out on the street, and he picks up these two. If you haven't seen Cruising, it has to do with a serial killer in the gay community. And he picks up these two.
William Friedkin.
Yeah.
Controversial.
I think I'll tell you what, I mean, and not to dive too much into Cruising, but I think Cruising is a good murder mystery that just has the gay subculture as a backdrop.
Yeah, and it hasn't aged well in that regard. There's some early 80s attitudes towards that community,
yes.
I guess would be the best way to put it, or the most PC way to put it.
If you listen to... So there's two really cool things, like if you want like an inside look on that movie. If they're about an hour and a half into the 2-hour interview that Mark Maron did with William Friedkin, he talks about how he got access to all the clubs, because those were all real nightclubs in New York City that he shot all that in. They were all mafia owned.
There was a lot of people from the scene, I think.
He was friends with a mafia guy who owned one of the bars in question that he went to, and he basically said in the guy's house, he said, "I'd like to shoot in one of the bars you own," and the guy, apparently the way it goes is he told Friedkin to like shut up, and then he took him outside, and he says, "You see there's a car over there, they're monitoring my house, don't ever speak about my business in my house because they have it bugged." And he says, "Now what do you want?" And he goes, "I want to shoot in the Ramrod," which is one of the clubs. And he basically said, "Okay, I'm going to give you a phone number. Don't write it down. Go to a payphone. Call the number. It's XYZ guy. He will get you." And that's basically how that movie came to fruition at that point.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it.
One last connection I'll make to that, and we'll move on. Do you know the scene in The Exorcist, the ultriogram, where they take her to the doctor and they're trying to like see if there's something wrong with her brain?
Yeah.
So one of the technicians who was in that scene was actually a serial killer in New York City later on that inspired him to make Cruising, because Cruising was a novel that was out already in the early 70s at the same time as The Exorcist, and he didn't want to do it.
Right.
He killed a guy, the guy from The Exorcist killed like a writer for the Village Voice at the time, and put his, right when Cruising starts, there's a body part floating in the river. He would put the body parts in bags and throw them out into the Hudson River.
Okay.
The thing was that the bags said New York City, like morgue, so they were able to track to find this guy, and but that's what inspired him to do that. But
interesting.
It's cool to revisit. I have it on CED. It's an interesting murder mystery.
This edition of Everything You Want to Know About the Movie Cruising, brought to you by Gregory May. You probably know more about that movie than anyone.
Well, I've read that, and I've read the autobiography of William Friedkin too, the Friedkin Connection.
You like yourself some Friedkin.
Yeah, he's probably one of my favorite directors.
You get your Friedkin on.
I get my Friedkin on.
There you go.
So, what else do we have?
We have John Carpenter's Starman, which is fine.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I like Karen Allen.
I love the story about it. Apparently, because The Thing tanked so hard and people did not love it at the time. They actually thought it was almost offensive because E.T. came out at the same time, and that was happy, friendly aliens, and The Thing was the opposite. So he's like, fine then, and he did Starman as a response, and he got all this. I think I think Jeff Bridges was nominated for a Academy Award, for an Oscar.
Okay.
I didn't get it, but he was nominated. So. It's good. It's not great.
Kevin likes that movie a lot. Our friend of the show, Kevin.
Does
Owens.
he?
Yeah.
There's nothing to dislike about it.
He says it's a better E.T.
Yeah.
He doesn't like E.T.
Oh, I love E.T.
I don't like E.T.
I grew up with E.T.
I mean, I think I got it beaten over my head with cable and everything.
I was 6. It's one of the early theater experiences I really remember clearly. And I remember E.T. So another one, I'm going to assume you at least know this movie. I hadn't heard of it. It's a Hammer Studios one called Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Ooh.
You like those, don't you?
All those movies are fantastic.
I'm not a fan. Dan Richmond is.
Taste of Blood of Dracula is a bit of a sleeper. 8072 is a bit of a sleeper. But the very first horror of Dracula, Peter Cushing plays Van Helsing. it rivals with the Universal horror stuff, honestly. I think actually better than that, and you might actually like them if you watch the Hammer Frankenstein movies.
I've seen a few, and
the ones where Cushing.
They didn't really. I don't know. They didn't really leave.
He's a bad guy though. Like
I guess I don't know. They didn't really leave an impression on me. But what this one you like? Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
I think that's towards the end.
Okay. Another one, I think. So the next two I actually saw in the theater. So these are '90s releases. The Craft from '96.
I've caught it on Netflix before.
Yeah, that one has a sizable cult. I remember that one being a shrug. Being like,
Yeah.
And Sleepwalkers, a Stephen King script only.
That's completely off my radar.
That is a bonkers movie. It's this mother and son who have this strange incestuous relationship, and they're like these kind of vampire creatures who are allergic to cats. Cats can destroy them, so there's a lot of cat carnage. Cats taking carnage and dishing it out, and it's Mick Garris. It's crazy. You should see it. It's just King's screenplays. I don't know if he has much respect for movies because his screenplays often are just garbage. And I recommended we cover a couple from the mid '80s, Maximum Overdrive and Silver Bullet, which hopefully we'll do. But the ones he does, those are both, I think, his screenplays, and those are both just.
And he directed Maximum Overdrive.
Yes, and again, I don't want to go way off on that, but like Sleepwalkers is another one that was a screenplay. It was not a book first, and it's just crazy. So I would recommend you check that out.
Yeah.
A cult favorite, a one I did not like when I first saw it, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
I haven't seen that one.
But you know the cult of it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the one with
the garbage day thing?
Yes, it's a meme, pretty much. There's a scene where a guy's taking out his trash, and another guy has a gun, and he goes, "Garbage day," and he shoots him, and it has like 1 billion hits on the internet, and it's a funny scene. The movie's garbage. It's literally 70% of the first movie. It's so much flashbacks,
recycled footage and stuff.
Yes. It's like, and there's a whole story behind that if you know the history of it. So that's getting a big old special edition. The two Urban Legends, which I'd seen the first one in the theater, which was not awful, but not all those movies that came out after Scream. That Urban Legends might be the best, and that's either that or I Know What You Did Last Summer, which neither are movies you need to see.
I mean, I guess it depends. If you like 90s slashers where the DVD case is basically the cast vomited onto the cover of it, and that was what poster art had become.
That was because of Scream, obviously. But so yeah, and then all 4 of the Critters series are coming out in a special edition, which I love the first one.
First 2 are okay.
I like the second one. I only saw the third and fourth one in the last couple of years.
There's a VHS copy of Critters over there on the windowsill.
Oh, is there? That's pretty sweet. But 3 and 4 are definitely not. Leonardo DiCaprio in 3 in an early role. So a couple other things that Shout Factory has coming out that I think worth mentioning. Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
I like that movie.
I do not.
I don't like 3.
I actually kind of like 3. I watched
really?
that
Would
recently.
you take 3 over this one?
I would take 3 over this one.
I don't know.
This one's too goofy.
This one was an HBO favorite.
This one is too broad, and it doesn't work. The jokes don't land. It's not funny. And then it's not... I love... Return of the Living Dead is probably my favorite 80s horror movie.
Is that the Tommy Jarvis guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that movie. And then this sequel is just an affront. And it takes... He shows up in this one as like, it's just dumb. Him and James Karen, his name is, I can't remember his name. Tom Matthews.
Yeah.
They come back with different characters and it makes no sense. And no, a big gigantic thumbs down for Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Wild at Heart, David Lynch, that's coming out. I thought it was all right. Not one of my favorite Lynches.
Never watched it.
It's bonkers. Brain Scan, which I don't think I've ever seen. That's Edward Furlong. It's a 90s movie. That has a cult. There are people like that
People
movie.
on the VHS, the VHS community, they like that movie. They post that quite a bit.
Interesting. The Seventh Sign, you ever seen that with Demi Moore, Michael Biehn?
No.
It's not good. Something, she's pregnant supposedly with something like Christ coming back or it's end of world stuff.
Did you notice Exorcist 2, The Heretic?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I thought we mentioned that last week.
Yeah, but that's his. Did we talk about it being released?
Oh, I guess not. Yeah, that's coming out. Scream for Help, which is one I'm going to try to get you to watch because I want to cover it on here. I saw that at Exhumed. It's just insane. It's like Nancy Drew mixed with a late 80s smutty thriller mystery. It's great with a bunch of people. There's Exorcist too. The Bride. You ever seen that with Sting?
No.
It's a remake of The Bride of Frankenstein. Not good.
Jennifer Beals, is that
from Flashdance?
Flashdance, yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. Not recommended. Trick or Treat, which Dan Richmond loves that. It's a later movie. It's like a
early 2000s. Yeah. I rented it. It's okay. I like what they're trying to do with like an anthology type of thing.
It's definitely got some interesting ideas the way the stories overlap, but not one of my favorites. But a lot of people love it. City Slickers. I saw that in the theater. Billy Crystal.
That's like finding Titanic when you're looking for VHSs. The number one thing I find is Titanic and City Slickers. Always there's a copy of City Slickers.
A lot of people did buy that. I think Scream Factory's biggest announcement was probably their edition of Creep Show, which I think is pretty tricked out. And I know people love that movie. Dan Richmond again loves that movie. I like it. It's not one of my favorite Romero movies, George Romero or Stephen King, because the two of them.
Creepshow's okay.
Yeah, that's where I would put it.
I mean, it's definitely your most like mainstream entry into both of them, I would think. Other than, your mainstream Stephen King is
Stephen King. There's a lot,
but I mean, for definitely Romero though, that was the biggest budget he ever had. The biggest,
he made a lot of money.
Well-known cast that he had: Eddie Harris, Hal Holbrook's in that, Adrienne Barbeau.
A lot of big hitters.
Yeah.
Then the Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation. That's one you like.
I dig it. A little crazy Matthew McConaughey before he was famous.
And Renee Zellweger.
Yeah. Originally it was just called Another Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. It wasn't... Or no, it was called The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
But they shelved it because it just didn't do good at the time. Then Dazed and Confused came out. Your like Bridget Jones' Diary type crap. And those two actors and actresses, they became famous. So they re-released it as The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, to try and bank out on that audience.
It's not. I don't think it's a good movie.
No, it's not. It's not a good movie at all. But it's fun.
Do you?
He has his legs controlled by remote controls.
I guess.
One of them is a CED player remote. Fun fact.
And then two more. Dragnet from the mid-'80s.
It's a good one.
With Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd. That's a good one.
It's a fun movie.
And then lastly, I think there's a major release too. Candyman. Where do you stand on that one?
It's been a long time since I've seen Candyman.
I've
seen Candyman, though, and I believe I liked what I saw when I watched it.
Don't say his name one more time, or I think he appears.
Oh, you got to look in a mirror first.
Is that it? Yeah. It's been.
I'm staring into an arcade cabinet. That might be reflective as well. So
that's true.
You never know.
I remember I liked it and love it.
And then just some stuff as we were both sitting here. What's your opinion on the House of a Haunted Hill remake?
That's okay.
Jeffrey Rush plays a great Vincent Price.
Of those, when they did all those remakes, I like 13 Ghosts.
That's all Castle Rock stuff.
Yeah. They did that, and they did... forget what else. There's another one, I think.
Ghost Ship was their own made one.
Ghost Ship has a great first 5 minutes,
and then the rest of the movie just goes down to
tanks. Yeah, it can't match that opening.
Similar to the Ernie Kovacs collection, if you really like vintage TV like I like really old 50s and 60s television, they look like they're having a Sid Caesar collection coming out, which he did back in the day, stuff from like you ever heard of Your Show of Shows?
Yes, of course.
And then so right here it says featuring film 10 from Your Show of Shows, collaborated sketches from Your Show of Shows. So it says all kinds of different stuff from at that time if you were into 50s television. So
a lot of that stuff. Shout Factory does that too.
There's a really strange time with television in its infancy. The 40s and 50s there were so many different things that were on television. I was watching something on YouTube not too long ago called Jackpot Bowling, and it was
I think I've heard.
It's got Milton Berle in it. They have these two like bowlers come on and then they bowl for a jackpot prize. Mm-hmm. But they would have an actor or an actress, somebody famous, come on that day and throw a bowling ball. One of the episodes was Janet Leigh, and there was a couple other people. So that's something worth looking out for. There was a 16 millimeter film reel of it going, like an actual kinescope of how they used to film television. That was on eBay for like $100. It was just a little out of my price range. Probably just could I drop $100 on a half-hour program? No. Okay. For 16 millimeter film, not right now. I would like to, but
sure.
Yeah. So That's good. Plenty of great releases on the radar. So collect your pennies and
Blu-ray. They are putting a lot of interesting stuff.
Their prices aren't terrible either, like $23.95.
A little high for some stuff, but
yeah. All right. So here's what we'll do. We'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Nighthawks, and then after that, Cobra, and so on and so forth. And we'll be right back here on Vintage Pop.
Show starts in 7 minutes.
Is this trip business or pleasure?
Pleasure, I hope.
Welcome to the United States.
Hamer Reinhardt, sometimes called Wolfgar. Born Frankfurt, Germany, 1946. Educated Paris and Patrice Lumumba University, Moscow. Currently self-employed. Occupation, international terrorist.
You are to be indoctrinated in counter-terrorist techniques.
Deke De Silva, age 35. Born and raised New York City. Honorable discharge, U.S. Army, 1972. 52 registered kills. Occupation, cop. One man can bring the world to its knees. And only one man can stop him. Universal Pictures presents Sylvester Stallone in Nighthawks, coming in April.
All right, welcome back to Vintage Pop. I'm your host, Greg May. We're here with Rich in 1984 in Wilmington, Delaware for our Sylvester Stallone show. I still don't know what we're going to call it yet. I said Stallone Spectacular. It could be early Sylvester Stallone.
Maybe Stunning Stallone.
That's a good one, too.
Maybe.
It's up. The title is up for grabs, but we're going to start off the first movie with Nighthawks from 1981. I have the director. He did not do much.
There was two directors.
Bruce Malmuth. No, the director before quit. He filmed the subway sequence, though.
Said he was fired, actually.
Really?
From what I saw. That Stallone was directing for a minute in there, and they wouldn't let him do it.
There's something going on with the Screen Actors Guild or something. He couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's a rule that if you're like part of a movie, you can't end up being a director, so people can't throw directors out. But yeah, I looked up Bruce, what was his name again?
Malmuth?
Yeah. He did the Karate Kid movies.
Well, he wrote them.
I think he directed them.
Really?
I thought I said he did.
I thought that he... hang on. I thought that the guy who directed Rocky, John Alvison, he's the ring announcer from the Karate Kid. He directed an episode of The Twilight Zone in the 80s. An ABC after-school special called The Heartbreak Winner in 1980. Sure, that was a fun time. But the only big movie that you would notice after Nighthawks would be the 1990 Steven Seagal film Hard to Kill.
I remember yeah, you're right. He didn't direct Karate Kids, but The Man Who Wasn't There from '83. That's Steve Guttenberg. And
I've never seen that one.
I don't think I have either, but I remember it being on cable as he's an Invisible Man character. I think it's supposed to be a goofy movie, but yeah, he and Hard to Kill, not a great movie.
I like, out of those movies, there's one with Bill Forsyth.
Out for Justice?
That's it.
I like Marked for Death.
The whole scene I like in the basement where Steven Seagal's in like the basement bar and he's like asking everybody like, has anybody seen Bobby Lupo? And he's got like the pool ball and the sock and he knocks the biker's teeth out and Out for Justice.
I kind of remember it.
He's like, you knocked my teeth out, and he hits him again.
They all run together. Marked for Death is Danielle Harris as his daughter. Danielle Harris from Halloween 4.
Yeah, she's also in a movie. She plays Bruce Willis's daughter in a movie I have not seen, The Last Boy Scout.
Which
a lot of people tell me to watch that movie.
I'm one of those people. But Nighthawks, I looked up. It wasn't clear when exactly it was released. It was in early April of 1981. It was around the same time as The Howling, Excalibur, and George Romero's Night Riders.
Night Riders has been on my radar forever.
You should see it.
I mean, Ed Harris is in it. Tom Savini.
Long.
Yeah,
it's like 2.5 hours.
It's probably the only like serious like Romero like mark that I have still yet to watch.
It's interesting. I don't remember. I saw it way back on VHS. I think in my mid-teens.
That movie calls for like big money on any format.
I think it was a flop.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I mean,
yeah, it's not a great idea.
I mean, if
Tom Savini stars in it.
Yeah, he plays like the Black Knight or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I think they have like some type of mix up with like local law enforcement or something in that movie.
Yeah, there's something to it, but it's been a while.
Ed Harris is slaying the dragon. Yeah.
But so for Nighthawks, I looked to see what I was interested in what Stallone had done right before and right after. So right before was Rocky 2.
Yeah.
Which I guess I've seen.
Well, that was what, 77?
79.
Really? They did it, I'll tell you what, for 3 years, because, no, Rocky was 75, wasn't it?
76.
Okay, so 3 years. They did a really great job of making everything look exactly the same. I mean, aesthetically, not much has changed in Philadelphia in 3 years.
I don't remember much of Rocky 2. I'm sure I've seen it. The Rocky movies are worth talking about for a minute.
That's my favorite Rocky sequel.
Well, can you think of any series that starts so kind of highfalutin and classy a movie and just goes, oh, Jaws. Okay, I just thought I wanted to compare it. But it just goes downhill to just cheese so fast.
The airport movies in the 70s.
You think they started out classy?
I think the original probably had a lot of earnest to it.
I don't really. Those used to be on TV a lot.
It was just like a who's who in Hollywood right now. Every time one of those would come out, as time went on. I mean, just like Poseidon Adventure and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, Rocky. I mean, when do you say it really tanked? Like 5? I mean,
3. No, three's an entertaining movie, but such a different movie.
3 is the epitome of Sylvester Stallone's fame, though. At that point,
Rocky 4 is a big music video.
Yeah, I mean that's the MTV Rocky movie.
Rocky 5's just not good. That's when it's just stopped being fun.
Tommy Gunn, real boxer, Tommy Morrison.
It's not a good movie.
It's not, but it's got George Washington Duke, the boxing promoter, the poor man's, Don King.
I guess. But right after Nighthawks, he did Victory. Do you remember that one?
So I have that movie. I haven't watched it yet. It's him, Michael Caine. It's a soccer movie.
Yeah, I think it's based on a true story, maybe. And then Rocky 3 was 82.
I think they play the Germans or something in soccer and Victory.
That sounds right.
It's like a World War II thing.
Yeah. I've never actually seen it, though. But so Nighthawks. So what was your first experience seeing this? So
this was not the first watching, but within the last 2 years, I've seen it for the first time.
Okay.
It was recommended to me by my friend Sean, he doesn't watch a lot of like past older movies like we talk about.
Okay.
But he said there is one older movie of Stallone that I like, and it's called Nighthawks, and you should check it out. Billy D's in it,
It's well regarded. I remember I bought the Blu-ray like in preparation for this, but before that, I think it'd been 25 years, maybe longer since I've seen it. I remembered all the high points. It's longer than I remember it being. It's a little, especially compared to Cobra. It's downright stately.
This morning I had a refresher with it because I watched it maybe a month or so ago, but I wanted to kind of refresh myself this morning, and it is much longer than like I thought. It's in that transition field where you had these types of movies, these international terrorist type of movies, these slow burn like international conflict type movies of the late 70s, and as you're making your way in the early 80s. Another movie that comes to mind, I don't know if you've ever seen, I probably brought it up before, The Amateur.
Yes.
It's got the guy from, what's its name, Deer Hunter in it, and that's like another one of those slow burn type of political thrillers. I mean, I guess that's, what would you call this like a political thriller?
I don't know if it's political.
Because he is an international terrorist.
It's more of a New York movie. So let's get into the plot.
Okay.
Stallone and Billy D. Williams are cops in New York, and it introduces them. It introduces Stallone undercover
as a decoy,
as a woman, for muggers.
Yeah,
which is a great scene, and I won't ruin it, but it pays off later.
Did that make? I got a French Connection vibe from that.
Interesting you say that. So what I found out, the script was originally supposed to be French Connection 3.
Really?
Yes, but Gene Hackman didn't want to do it, and it was originally supposed to have Richard Pryor as his partner in the Billy D. Williams role. He was supposed to be wisecracking, but Gene Hackman did not want to do it, so the script changed into Nighthawks.
Everything except Richard Pryor, like being in it, I think would have worked.
It's hard to envision.
I mean, obviously, it's hard to
like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that definitely works as a French Connection type movie. Popeye Doyle.
I can understand why he wouldn't want to do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, at that point too, it's been over 10 years. Gene was a lot older at that point.
Yeah.
I can't really see him like chasing Rutger Hauer down the street.
Yeah, so it's so they're cops, and Rutger Hauer's an international terrorist.
Wolfgar,
who's he's based on someone real. I forget who. Oh, the Jackal. Yeah, he was some international terrorist around, I think, the late 70s, who I think they met the Bruce Willis movie, The Jackal, is based on.
Didn't you feel like, when I was watching the movie today, I feel like in the late 70s, early 80s, international terrorism was a plot point that they just threw around in movies that was just completely...
What other movies are you thinking of that used that?
I don't know, like, off the top of my head, but I feel like it was like a lot looser now, like then.
Probably.
Like, because now it's like if you were to make a movie with like an international terrorist...
Well, it's a little too real now.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't. No one had ever... There was no 9/11 or anything like that.
No, but there was always like these like terrorist cells. Have you ever seen the movie Expose or Exposed? It's got Natasha Kinski in it.
I even know that
Harvey
movie.
Keitel is in it.
No.
I have a VHS copy of it, but she basically is a girl that lives in like a small town. I'm sure you know Natasha Kinski from like Cat People and stuff that. She moves to New York City to like be a model or something. She gets involved with this guy who turns out to be connected to some type of international terrorist cell overseas, who is controlled by Harvey Keitel of all people.
Okay.
And I mean, the movie is a bomb, but and the way it ends is kind of just like, but like it's another one of those movies that just like loosely like throws around like he's like a Wolfgar type of person.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was popular then. So Rutger Hauer just messing stuff up. I like the scene in the beginning where he blows up the department store.
Yeah.
That's a fun scene. That stuck out. And so I guess he makes his way over to New York.
Well, yeah, because they basically, some guy tries to turn him over to the police.
Right.
And at that point, he had a picture. He had Wolfgar, Rutger Hauer's passport. So then they knew what he looked like. So he had to change his appearance and go to New York.
So he didn't really change his. All he did was shave a beard, really.
Dye his hair.
They made it that he was getting plastic surgery, but he really doesn't.
Well,
look
he
that
starts
different.
off as like a red-haired guy with like a
but
beard.
it's not plastic surgery level.
Oh no, but I mean, you think they really had the budget to do that?
No, I guess not.
He transforms into a more recognizable Rutger Hauer.
I guess, and this was his first movie in the U.S. too.
Yeah, it was before Blade Runner.
Yeah.
There's a guy whose career kind of just went down the tube.
Yes, he still pops up in things.
Yeah, but he did like Hobo with a Shotgun.
That's a great movie.
You really think so?
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
I think the trailer that they did for Grindhouse was great, and
they made it into an entire movie. It's wall-to-wall gore and just.
It's got the guy from Trailer Park Boys in it.
You want to talk about a great Rutger Hauer movie? You ever seen Blind Fury?
No, but I see that like popping up places.
He's a blind guy who's like a samurai, and he messes up everybody.
I haven't seen too much of Rutger Hauer.
He does good work.
I've seen this movie, of course, and the biggest, obviously, Blade Runner. But
yeah, everyone's seen Blade Runner. But yeah, Rutger Hauer. He's in Batman Begins.
Is he really?
Yeah, I believe he is.
What is he, like a Ra's al Ghul type person?
I think he's like a government character or something like that.
Okay.
He's not like a main character. But he does well. He's a good bad guy in this. Like I said, what'd you watch this on? Did you watch this on VHS?
VHS, and this was a question I actually wrote down for you. I felt that the movie looked very, very dark at times, just the way that it was like lit. Mm-hmm. Was it the same for you on Blu-ray?
The Blu-ray looks great.
Okay.
The one scene where I actually stopped and said, "Wow, that looks great," was when they're in the subway running around.
Yeah.
That just looks fantastic on the Blu-ray. So it's one that I guess they did improve it pretty well.
Yeah, that's very, very muddy on my copy. I mean, I have and I'm not talking like a VHS that came out within the last 20 years. I have like a MCA Universal like VHS from probably 1982 or 83.
I like to think that so I think Miss 45 Caliber came out around the same time, so I like to think in the back of those scenes she's running around killing would-be rapists, the character from Miss 45 Caliber.
I mean, that's a very lurid movie, but I mean, it's a great movie.
That's my favorite rape revenge movie.
I'm probably I've said it before, Savage Streets, but
yeah, I rewatched that recently. It's okay.
It's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, that's why I watched it on.
Yeah, so if you got a Prime account, Savage Streets.
Savage Streets. Let's see what else I got. I think it's interesting. So Stallone's character is a Vietnam vet, and so the next year he would be in First Blood.
Deke Da Silva.
How do you feel about the Rambo movies? Have you seen those?
Of course.
And
I like First Blood. I like First Blood 2. I don't like Rambo 3 when he's playing soccer with like a goat head on a horse. And the John Rambo that they made, where he basically looks like an inflated meatball.
I think it's Rambo.
He's just like on a Thailand like boat.
That's an entertaining movie.
It's not. Yeah, I mean,
that's an insanely violent movie
for the time. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you don't see like that type of squib action going on anymore.
No, and people just get shredded in that. What was that, 5 years ago it came out?
Oh, probably longer than that.
They're supposedly doing another Rambo movie.
Why?
Money. I guess he's in his 70s now.
He's got to be 70.
He's 73. I think he's 73. My parents.
He they didn't hang out, but my grandfather and Sylvester Stallone went to the same high school in Philadelphia. 1970. He's 72.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So so the next year he would do Rambo, but this character in this movie, I forget the character's name.
Deke Da Silva.
Very good. He is a Vietnam vet who doesn't want to kill.
Yeah.
They make a big point of that. I don't want to kill. Also, is this the only movie Stallone has a beard? I believe it is.
Stallone looks very 70s.
He does. Those glasses.
A leather duster.
Those glasses only exist in that period.
Wonder if those were prescription glasses too. Probably people wore prescription glasses like that.
Yes,
I would.
They're like a little tan, almost.
Yeah, it's like nice. He's got like a Kojak hue. He's got he looks like a little. He's got a little Savalas going on.
And you like, because we talked a little bit about this the other night, but you like Billy D. Williams in this.
I understand your argument from what you were starting to say.
My argument was that he is used. So there's some interesting similarities between this and Cobra, the next movie we're going to cover, also Stallone, and that's useless partners. You remove the partners from the movie, it's the same movie. So Billy D. Williams does nothing that helpful.
Yeah, he's no Roy Scheider in The French Connection.
Right.
I think I will say this. I think he needs a partner though in the movie.
I guess you need.
Does he need Billy D. Williams? Could they have thrown any like insert what's a hot character actor? I mean, though that's what I'm just saying right there. Who's the hot character actor in 1981? It probably is Billy D. Williams.
Well, it's right after Empire.
Yeah. He's fresh in everybody's mind. He just did a movie maybe a few years later. Have you ever seen Fierce City, the Abel Ferrara movie?
Yeah, I didn't like that much.
He's not in it much, later. But he's just he's a name where they're just like, hey, Billy D. Williams. Like he's on the Betamax cover or the VHS or whatever the hell.
Yeah, I'm looking online here. So like Empire was 2 movies. Like he did a TV movie between...
Was he was in Brian's song too, though, right? With
that's
James,
a lot earlier.
James Caan. I mean, that would have been his breakout, probably.
Probably, yeah. That's like 71.
Okay. Really, that old?
Yep.
Billy D's been around for a while.
He's not young.
No, he's an old man now. The last major movie I remember seeing Billy D. Williams in was Undercover Brother from like the early 2000s with Eddie Griffin.
Oh my gosh.
He plays like the General's fried chicken.
Yeah, Billy D is like 81.
Damn. So he could have been like Stallone's big brother in that movie.
Pretty far from Colt 45.
You know who also is in this movie? Joe Spinell.
Joe Spinell. So he's best known, I would say, for being a Maniac, which is it's 1980, a very seedy New York, very New York. Would you call it a slasher movie? It's definitely within the slasher template.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to call it.
It's a character study.
It's not. I'll tell you what. I don't think it's as heavy as Henry.
No.
I mean, I think you're still unsettled watching it, but I think where Henry is much more visceral and real.
Sure.
Maniac's a little more camp.
A little bit.
Especially with the mannequin scene and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where you say that this is the first and only movie we ever see Stallone with a beard, this may be the only movie we see Joe Spinell clean shaven.
Not completely sure about that.
I've always remember his mustache.
He's in a lot of stuff.
He was.
He's in Godfather.
Willie Chi-Chi.
Didn't him and Stallone knew each other?
Him and Stallone were good friends.
Yeah. So he pops up. He's the police chief in this, right?
Yeah. You know who I always when I talk about Joe Spinell, especially my dad, when I bring up, I always say the guy who was in Rocky, who he works for on the dock. His name's like Mr. Gazzo in it.
Okay.
He's the one that always gets up in the first two movies, and he's all like, "Go for it, Rock!" Like towards the end when they're like about to knock him out, and
that's a while.
Yeah, but that's what he would be most notable for, I would think, if you're not a horror fan.
But I think he's great. He screams his way through this movie.
Oh yeah, he uses some real like 70s lingo too. He's like, "Get this, sucker."
He's like a character that would be made fun of on Simpsons in this.
Yeah, but
he's tremendously.
You're a cop and you're following orders. Like,
let's talk about that score.
Yeah, Keith Emerson of ELP.
Yes, now I'm not really into the prog rock, but I am into this score.
I like progressive rock. Goblin's a little prog rock if you like Goblin.
Yeah, but more rock than prog. Prog rock. I remember I used to work with a guy who loved that stuff, and I remember he was talking. He goes, "I just love music that has a story," and I'm like, I love music that's the opposite.
I wouldn't say that. I think like if you were to take like Emerson, Lake Palmer, for example, I would say it's more like those types of songs have more like electronic type instruments to them. If you listen to like not so much the score that's in this movie, but if you were to listen to like album that comes to my mind, an album called Trilogy by ELP, and then Alan Parsons Project is also a band that's very similar to like the type of stuff. It's similar music though.
That is, once you start putting Roman numerals in your song titles, I'm out. Why does your song have chapters? It's so excessive. It takes all the heart out of music.
Oh man,
it's like if a Dragon T-shirt started a band. I'm not.
It's a hot topic with a pulse.
I don't know. I've never been into it. Like early Genesis with Peter Gabriel dressing like a fox.
Oh, I know.
Singing songs about teacups.
I don't like Peter Gabriel in general.
Oh, I like some of his 80s stuff.
How many more times can we hear Salisbury Hill in a romantic comedy trailer?
He does get overused in movies, but it's outrageously good score for this movie.
Oh yeah, very very funky too. Like it's got like that. It's got a late. That movie is still in that transition field where like it feels more like a late 70s movie than it does like a movie of the 80s.
It does. I believe it was delayed too. I think they actually started filming this in 79 from what I read, and there's a lot.
And I think it took a year or two to come out.
Yeah. There was Stallone was a pain on this. He did a lot of his. He insisted on doing a lot of his own stunts.
Well, he probably was fairly diva at this point, I would say.
They do mention that. There's an interview with the cinematographer, I believe, and he talks about having a confrontation with him. That's on the Blu-ray.
I'd like to see him having the confrontation in full costume, the tinted glasses,
that'd be awesome.
The Jeff cap that he wears, and like the leather duster, and like Billy D trying to hold him back.
One other thing I want to mention. So you've seen the movie Terror in the Aisles, right?
That's like the mashup of horror stuff. It's got like Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis.
So yeah, I love that movie. It's a one of a kind. It's a movie in the mid '80s that's made up of scenes of other movies, and it's mostly horror movies.
Right.
But there's some action movies in there. Vice Squad. There's scenes from that, but there's scenes from Nighthawks in there. The at the end.
Oh, okay.
So some of the more violent scenes show up in there. It's just I love Terror in the Aisles. It's trash.
You've seen Vice Squad, right?
Yes. I used to have the VHS.
I have it on CED. It's not. I mean, I'm not going to go far and say like, "Oh, it's a terrible movie. Don't watch it."
I think it's a good movie.
It's whack.
It is.
Certain scenes.
It's harsh.
Yeah.
It's a harsh. Is that Season Hubley?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite actors.
Season Hubley. She's also in. You ever seen Hardcore with George C. Scott?
No.
Oh, do you know of it?
Yes.
That whole
it's on
like
my list.
Turn it off. Like,
it's a hard one to get.
I have it.
Yeah.
You don't have a VCR though,
I don't
right?
have a VCR.
I'd have to make.
I have to buy one of these.
I have
days.
to make you like a DVD care package.
I haven't had a VCR since the late '90s. Once I went DVD, I didn't look back.
Yeah, I've inherited most of your heavy hitter VHS titles.
Oh well, yeah, the ones that are on Blu-ray or DVD.
Yeah.
Anything else on this one?
Yes. The girl who is like Wolfgar's like second in command.
Oh, the one who pops up and I guess she related to some other bad guys who used to finance him, something like that.
Yeah. She like the main cell or whatever, terrorist cell. Her name is like Persis Kambata or something. You may recognize her from, do you remember the very first Star Trek movie, Star Trek the Motion Picture?
I watched that a long time ago. And
she was a bald woman on the ship, and she gets like killed and becomes like one with like whatever the sentient thing they're trying to take over in space.
Okay.
But she died young too, but she was like one of those actresses that was like the hot item for like movies in that era. So you put her in like the major Star Trek movie, then from that she becomes the number 2 on like a Nighthawks or something like that. But yeah. We also get to see the Roosevelt Island Skytram in a pretty good sequence.
Yes, yeah.
That's a big piece in New York. They closed that for a couple of years in like the late 2000s. They had to renovate it, but I would never ride anything like that because I would be afraid of either A, what happens in the movie, or B, like
you'd be afraid a terrorist would take
or that, or
route?
just dangling over the Hudson River in like basically an oversized like a Hershey Park Skyway.
Are you afraid of heights?
I don't like heights.
You don't like
I'll
heights?
go on roller coasters though.
Interesting.
Oh, also poking around on IMDb, the team that they assemble to take down Wolfgar is called Attack, ATAC. Did you notice that on the?
That was supposedly one of the original titles.
Really?
Yes.
That would have been terrible.
It would have been not good.
So one of the agents, and I only know this because of IMDb, Steve Dash. Jason. Friday 2.
From Friday 2.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Tater
okay.
Sack Man.
Tater Sack. He's in.
And that was like 81 too. So I mean, he must have been bouncing from one set to the next. He went from the Roosevelt Island Skytram car down to Crystal Lake. It's not that far of a drive.
Yeah, I'll have to watch this again and watch out for him.
I couldn't catch him, but like I said, it's only.
I've seen pictures of him from behind the scenes from part 2, so I have a kind of an idea.
Yeah, like I don't know what the hell he looks like, but yeah.
I've seen you've never gone to a convention where he's spoken.
No.
He is entertaining. You know the whole controversy with the other guy who plays Jason in that movie, Warrington Gillette?
No.
There's a whole controversy because Warrington Gillette got the credit for playing Jason in the whole movie in part 2, but he's really only in the scene at the end when he jumps through the window.
Oh, where he looks like a crazy hillbilly.
Yeah,
like
that's it. And Warrington,
one hides like surfer hair.
Like all the stuff with Tater Sack Jason, as you like to call him, is Steve Dash. And he's only recently gotten the credit for
He was
that.
a pretty mobile Jason.
He is.
Not as acrobatic as Part 3's Jason, but
no, there are Jasons I like better, but he leaves an impression.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know we could get down this debate a longer time. I'm not like I don't get the whole Kane Hodder hype.
We talked about that last.
Yeah,
time.
I could get a lot of hate from that, but
yeah, neither of us are big into him.
But yeah,
but
so
Nighthawks.
Yeah,
we give a recommendation.
I would say so.
I'd say it's objectively a better movie than Cobra.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a better made movie than Cobra. I think the writing's probably a little tighter. I think the plot
Classier.
is, and I mean, is Cobra more fun? Maybe.
I'm going to say yes, but we're going to get into that.
But we will get into that. So Nighthawks from 1981, definitely worth checking out. And I think the highlight's probably the subway chase.
Like the best scene, I need the action scenes in this. The scene, and so apparently they cut some gore to keep an R rating for this. So
really, it doesn't. It's not
the
that
final
violent.
scene, which I'm not going to get specific about, but also the nightclub scene. Apparently, more people got. No, it's not really that violent, but I believe around that period, so where it came out, 81, when it would have been getting rated, that's right after John Lennon got murdered. 'Cause he got murdered in December.
Yeah.
I remember reading that impacted when Friday 2 and My Bloody Valentine went to the MPAA, that they were really, for a couple months, vigilant about violence. Ha ha. So I wonder if Nighthawks suffered that as well, because it's the same period.
So yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. I'm sure it's out there. On Amazon, you might have to pay $2 or $3 for
$4.
it. It's worth it.
If you've never seen it, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, you could get the Blu-ray probably relatively affordable.
I got it for 15,
That's
maybe
not
18
bad.
bucks. No, not bad for
That's
a
not
special
bad. If it's
edition.
something that you've seen before, you'd like to revisit in that type of permanent setting, then get the Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's worth it. It looks really good.
And the tape's fine if you can pick that up for a couple bucks. A little muddy, but
Sure.
you get it across. So, all right, we'll take a break. We'll come back to later era Stallone, when Stallone was probably like full diva mode. 1986's Cobra. We'll be right back.
Society is breeding a new kind of criminal. It's also breeding a new kind of cop. Meet Cobra. He does the job nobody wants.
Did you use unnecessary deadly force?
I used everything I had.
Do you know you have an attitude problem?
Yeah, but it's just a little one.
You think you would recognize me if you saw him again?
The tall one?
Yeah. The one that wants to kill you.
Do what you have to do to get a lead on this maniac.
And if I find him?
Do what you do best.
Stallone is Cobra, the strong arm of the law.
Too hard, trying to make a living, hustling all day. I've had all that I can take. Gotta get away.
All right, welcome back to Vintage Pop. It's episode 11. We're on our second movie of our Stallone episode, and it's we're gonna meet Cobra. He does the job nobody wants.
Marion Cobretti. This is probably my favorite Stallone movie.
Really? You would go that far?
I would go that far. It's like this movie was made by Vikings on a lot of coke, and just it's my first experience with it was memorable. So I think I was 11. It was on. I was at a friend's birthday party. We rented it. I believe we watched it along with Space Camp, which is a hell of a double feature.
Cobra is probably the better one.
Cobra's definitely the better one. Space Camp's not good, but I remember it freaked out some of the kids. Such a bananas movie. So, do you know the history of how this ended up
to happen? Like the movie?
So, do you know Stallone's connection to Beverly Hills Cop?
No, so I didn't know that. I was going to go a different direction.
So apparently they originally tried to get Stallone for Beverly Hills Cop, and he rewrote it to make it gritty. He changed the character name to Alex Cobretti, and the studio's like, yeah, we're not doing this, and they threw him off it, and then he went and made Cobra from what he was trying to make Beverly Hills Cop into. What were you going to
So at the time, have you ever seen the documentary Electric Boogaloo?
Yes, about Cannon.
Yeah. So Menahem Golan, the guy who it was Golan and Globus who owned Cannon, they were trying to get Stallone. They were trying to get a big actor to come to Cannon and make movies for them. You know, a lot of their early stuff was like people whose careers were kind of petering out. Like I know Faye Dunaway did like The Wicked Lady after like Mommy Dearest flopped.
Okay.
They picked up Franco Nero for like Enter the Ninja and stuff like that, and you know, and then their own homegrown talent like Dudikoff, and you know, even Jean-Claude Van Damme got his start with Cannon.
Right.
But Stallone was the first person, big time actor that they got to come on to Cannon Films, and I believe the contract was for about $36 million that they got him for. They said that he was going to be contracted to make 3 movies, Cobra being one, Over the Top.
Which was the next one.
Which was the next one, which was actually directed by Golan. And then there was a third that never happened because...
Over the Top tanked so hard?
No, just because Cannon kind of folded in the 90s. Okay. I think Cliffhanger is the unofficial third Cannon...
I saw that in the theater.
That was, what, 94?
93.
So that sounds about right. Probably that would have been something that Cannon might have made, but I think Cliffhanger could have been a Cannon movie. I mean, if Cannon was still
Cliffhanger's not that trashy though, the way it turned out.
There's some good Cannon movies though that just
there are.
did
there
not
definitely
turn
are.
out to be trashy though.
Sure.
And they tried their hand at doing like some art films and stuff like that too.
They did a lot of movies.
They had like Godard for some stuff. They had and then we talked about Barfly, which is a great movie.
That's Cannon, yeah.
Yeah. So But go ahead.
I was going to say, where were you going to go?
No, that's all I was going to say about the whole canon thing.
So if you don't know the plot of Cobra, Cobra's like if you took Rambo and put him in a Dirty Harry movie.
It really is.
It's like the wet dream of some like mid-'80s conservative gun nut.
It seems like something that we all would like if we were like kids or like in college sitting around one night like drinking beers and going like what would be the best cop movie, and you go, okay, what do you think? All right, we give Sylvester Stallone. You're like with a chalkboard and you're like, all right, we got Sylvester Stallone, Los Angeles. Okay, Los Angeles, he's a cop on the edge, perfect. Get the guy from Hellraiser who's the dad to be like crappy to him.
Well, they get two guys from Dirty Harry in this.
Remy Santoni, who is the first partner in
it
had just dawned on me for the second Dirty Harry thing that you're about to say.
Andrew Robinson.
Yeah, who was the Scorpio killer.
The bad guy. And actually, apparently in the original script, he was going to be a member of, he was going to be the main bad guy.
That would have worked.
So so Stallone is Marion Cobretti, a cop who doesn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
And just he's part of the zombie squad. They take care of the jobs no one else wants. And it opens up with a guy who goes into a supermarket and just decides he'll start shooting stuff. They destroy so much stuff in this movie. Just scenes of things breaking, not just the violence, just him shooting into soda cans.
But that whole sequence basically is like gets you up to speed that how cool Cobretti is.
Sure,
because basically you have this guy who the two police captain. Excuse me. The two police, I guess they're captains or whatever their superiors are.
Yeah.
The guy, Andrew Robinson, and then the other guy. Now, Andrew Robinson hates Cobra, but I'll tell you what, the other guy seems to have no problem with Cobra.
No, he begrudgingly allows him to do whatever.
Yeah, like basically there's this thing that's going down at a supermarket and he just like offhandedly just goes, call the Cobra.
The Cobra. And the movie opens up with him reading off crime statistics and shooting at the audience. The movie shoots at you.
It's got to make sure you're paying attention to those stats.
Oh, make sure right away.
Crime is a disease, and he's the cure.
He drops so many one-liners just in that opening scene. My favorite is when he's talking to the guy the guy's basically holding people hostage in his supermarket for God knows why. There's no real reason.
I think he must have loosely been connected to that thing.
Yeah, he says something about the New Order, so he's connected to the bad guys who we'll talk about later. But so Stallone says, he talks about shooting out the place, and Stallone says, I don't care, I don't shop here.
Yeah, go ahead, blow it up, I don't shop here.
He says such dumb stuff. I wrote down some of it. This is my favorite dumb line. Hey, dirtbag, you're a lousy shot. I don't like lousy shots. As a cop, shouldn't you like lousy shots? Because then they won't shoot you.
The best part of that whole line is that he basically pulls the intercom for the the supermarket. Like, instead of going like, attention Kmart shoppers, he's basically just like, hey, dirtbag.
There's so much product placement in this movie. There's Pepsi's everywhere. He takes a drink out of a beer.
That is the best part of it. That shows you right there that Sylvester Stallone as Cobra is not the person to mess with, because he takes a matchstick out of his mouth, cracks a Coors, and then drinks it, and then throws it as a decoy for the guy to shoot with his shotgun.
He wrecks so much stuff. So much stuff gets wrecked. So later in the movie, we get introduced to our bad guys, which I'm going to say these are hands down the best bad guys since Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark, you got Nazis. How are you going to not hate Nazis? How about axe-wielding, possibly satanic?
I was about to say, are they like satanic?
They never say, but it feels satanic to me. Axe-wielding bikers.
Yeah.
Like how can you get on board with that? They're not quite white supremacists because they seem to hate everybody.
I think they call the main guy like the Night Stalker.
Night Slasher.
Okay.
That's what you want to call it.
He's been in some other crap.
He is the bad guy in Fright Night 2. You ever seen Fright Night 2?
No, I haven't even seen Fright Night 1.
Here's a controversial statement, and Dan Richmond's going to hate me for this, but I'm going to say Fright Night 2 is better than Fright Night 1.
I cannot say. I haven't seen either. I have Fright Night on Laserdisc.
Oh, you should watch it.
Yeah.
They're fun. But yeah, he's in a bunch of stuff, but that's the one thing I noticed him the most from, because I rewatched that recently. So, so his partner, Remy Santoni, do you know what else he's in besides Dirty Harry?
Bad Boys?
Seinfeld. He's Poppy.
Oh my God.
He's the one who pees the couch. And it's only a few years later.
Yeah. You ever seen Bad Boys though? Sean Penn?
Yeah,
it's a prison
we talked
movie.
about that last week.
Yeah,
that's a great prison
He
movie.
plays like a warden type person, but like he's got like the kid's best intentions.
So if we're talking stars, Bridget Nielsen, you can't not mention.
Well, they
her.
were married at that point.
I think they were dating.
Well, yeah, I think you have Rocky 5. 4. That
she's shoved into 4 as Draco's wife, or is she?
I think it is his wife. She does say my husband, I think.
But she also is like his promoter, right?
She's his Don King / spouse.
There you go. So we have Bridget Nielsen in there, just kind of looking pretty and just following.
I think that's the best she's ever looked in a movie.
Do you know the guy? So the scene where she's with the photographer, the blonde guy.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is?
No.
David Rash.
I've heard the name.
He was on a show in the mid '80s called Sledgehammer, which is a parody of like Dirty Harry and these kind of movies where he plays the main character.
Is the cop's name Sledgehammer?
Yes.
That's horrifying.
And he's in love with his gun, and it's really broad. And it lasted 2 seasons. You should check it out on the YouTubes as it was. Oh, something that they don't follow through on in this movie. Did you notice that this is a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Early on in the movie, it's obvious.
There's a Toys R Us ad when he uses scissors to cut a slice of pizza.
So okay, but by the end, they seem to have dropped it. So there's an interesting thing about the history of this. So the original cut of this was 2 hours.
Ugh.
And the movie that came out the week before Cobra was Top Gun, and Top Gun was huge. So they're like, oh crap, we're going to have to compete with this. What are we going to do? So they cut a half hour out of the movie so it will run an extra
more showtimes.
Time. Yes. And it did end up being #1 that week. So I looked. It came out the same day. Cobra was released the same day as Poltergeist 2.
I'd rather go see Cobra.
Yeah.
Even though
like
Poltergeist 2 is an okay movie, but I think I'd have still been at Cobra.
Yeah, so they were both #1, #2 at the box office that week. Although, like 2 weeks afterwards, Top Gun was #1 again because that movie was gangbusters. But yeah, so they chopped out a lot of content out of the movie at the last minute.
So, do you have this on Blu-ray?
No, I have I have a DVD, and my DVD is so old. How old is it?
It's a snapper case.
Yes, it's a snapper case, which are the early DVDs. Also, the special features, most of them are text only.
Character bios.
Yeah, and talking about his car. So we got to mention his car in it. He has a customized 1950 Mercury.
Yeah.
Which is actually Stallone's car.
And the plate says Awesome 50.
Yes, because it's 1950.
Yeah.
And I love the line at the end where they're like, so Cobra, we'll do whatever you want and give you a better assignment. He goes, I'd like you to pay for my car. And he goes, well, we'd like to, but we can't. Which is such a weird detail. I love the car chase scene.
Oh yeah,
I think that's one of the best of the '80s.
You talking I also like when he's on the back of that truck when he's got like that
the
Mac
action
10.
Scenes in this movie are
top notch.
Yeah, they're really great. But that car chase scene, I think, is one of the best of the period.
The soundtrack is pretty good too.
Pretty good.
It's really good.
What do you really like? Miami Sound Machine?
Suave when he rips the dude's shirt off, and he's like, "Clean up your act."
Okay.
Robert Tepper, who's old boy from Rocky 4, does "There's No Easy Way Out." He also sings "Angel of the City" in Cobra.
Wow,
that's the whole montage with the photography with Bridget Nielsen.
This movie has hell a lot of montages.
and him and Remy Santoni are like going around tattoo parlors so to see if they can find like some generic ass skull tattoo that this cult has.
I did watch. They have some of the deleted scenes on YouTube, but they're all like there's none of the a lot of gore got removed from the movie too, so it got cut for an R rating. But because it's kind of like a slasher movie. It has a little bit. A lot of people comment that there's chase scenes in a hospital. It reminds people of Halloween 2.
A little bit.
But it is a little slashery. But apparently, it took a lot of that gore out. But I saw some of the scenes that were like television scenes and things like that.
Oh, that's right, because they would shoot extra scenes for TV.
Yes. Yeah, so they have that. That's on YouTube, so you can check those out. They're not good quality, but there's different plot points.
The woman who is his like number 2, who is like winds up who's in the police, who like
you're talking about the bad guy.
Yeah, she's like his woman, and they also she also happens to be in the police force.
You mean she's Night Slasher's girlfriend?
Yeah, she's Night Slasher's lady.
I don't know if that's definite.
I don't know. I mean, you don't see any like public displays of affection.
They don't go shopping for duvets.
Yeah, they don't go to IKEA. But I mean, she kind of looks like she's got a little bit of a pull on him at one point though, where she's just like talking about how she's gonna mess up the world order or whatever. That
okay.
But she also is the waitress And I noticed this. Psycho 3 and Psycho 2 works at the diner that Norman Bates works at.
Oh my gosh, I did not notice that.
Also, for a second, have you ever seen what's that movie? I always Sudden Impact.
Yeah,
the
I
Dirty
watched
Harry
that
movie.
recently. Rewatched it.
Does she remind you a little bit of like that dirty lady that like was friends with all of those? That
maybe a little bit.
I thought it was her at first.
Yeah, you can see where you think.
I kept all week. I've been looking up Sudden Impact, and I keep typing in Deep Impact, and I get like that Morgan Freeman movie from like the '90s.
It's a very different movie.
But what I really want is Sudden Impact, which is probably, even though directed by Clint Eastwood, probably the sleazier of the Dirty Harry movies.
Yeah, probably, but definitely with the plot.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite.
It's
well, Dirty Harry's always gonna be.
That's the most '80s of them, though. I mean, Deadpool is terrible.
I like Deadpool,
but we could talk about that another time.
Sure. I like Deadpool though. Trying to think what else I want to bring up for this one. I mean, it's such a fun movie.
It's definitely like really, really good VHS. Like, I mean, I have the VHS copy of it, and that's how I watched it from like a video store when I was like growing up. But it's definitely one of those movies, like, and you saw it at a sleepover growing up. It's one of those movies like, hey, do you want to see a really like down and out like kick-ass like action movie? Like Cobra is that movie.
Right. I'm surprised they never made a sequel.
I don't know how that would have worked.
You could just have
another person.
Or more, he missed a few bikers. And
like he fast forward 2 years later, Cobra's still like on the zombie squad.
Sure,
we check in
do
with
all
Cobra.
Kinds of things with it, or just have another group of crazies, or have Nazis. Have Nazis in L.A. in the late '80s.
That could have worked.
That would have worked.
You got to get like you'd have to get like a Henry Rollins type person to play like the.
If you had Henry Rollins in that period, he would have been bananas.
Yeah,
late '80s Henry.
Yeah, and he didn't act much until the '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
he was in Sons of Anarchy. That's why it made me think of him. He played a Nazi in. He was a neo-Nazi in Sons of Anarchy in like season 2.
He attacks Peg Bundy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a bad dude in that movie.
He is.
So yeah, Cobra. Yeah,
it's like it's not objectively better movie than Nighthawks, but
no,
it's
a more fun movie. Nighthawks obviously the better made of the two movies.
Get a crowd of people, get a gigantic bucket of popcorn.
Yeah, and I think that's one of we do movie nights here every now and then. Definitely in 1984. It's more towards Halloween time. For the last couple of years, we played a couple horror movie things. But if we were ever to do an action movie night, I think Cobra would be a good fit.
Oh, another thing I wanted to comment. I couldn't find. I remember Ebert had reviewed it at the time, but I couldn't find an Ebert review.
He probably said terrible things.
No, he did not like it, if I remember correctly. But I remember a comment he made about some of the settings for these action movies. So at the end of this movie, at the end of Cobra, you end up in that factory.
Yeah.
He said it looked like a factories where they just made fire. That's what the factory at the end of Cobra reminded me of. It's just, what are they making in that place?
It must be like it reminded me of the refinery from Terminator 2
or RoboCop.
Oh yeah,
RoboCop takes place in just one of those mysterious.
But that's like a completely abandoned factory in RoboCop.
But this one's running, and there's sparks in places where there shouldn't be.
They make sparks and fire and villains.
It's ridiculous.
One thing like you said about like Ebert and even like Siskel to a degree, I never like. I get that they're critics and they have to go like, okay, like this is bad. Don't they ever like fun though? Like you ever just sit down and go like, okay, the movie is trash. But
Ebert loosened up sometimes.
But it's a great time.
I think Siskel was less of one to loosen up, and maybe that was more of them at the time trying to think about parents and kids seeing that, because they actually thought this stuff was damaging. I mean, I was the kids they were worried about because I was sneaking these movies.
Well, even slasher movies and stuff like they hated slasher movies.
They really did.
They reviewed Extra. And I mean, not a slasher movie, but also like a really trashy horror film,
which you've never seen.
I've been trying to.
I keep telling you, it's awful.
I know it's, but like I mean, it's. I gotta see it.
It's not even fun. It's hard. I know the descriptions sound like it's.
And then you see the trailer of it, and you're like, "This has to be crazy."
It's such a dud.
You get like this great synth like vibe on it. And
it ruins everything. Every moment is just wrong.
I know it's supposed to be like super gross, but
it is gross. But it's weirdly unenjoyable. But no, I think at the time they were trying to be watching out for kids.
Yeah.
And us kids all just watched these movies, and we're fine now, I guess.
I've never used an axe on anything other than a piece of wood.
I've never used an axe.
Yeah, so see, I mean, there you go. All right, well, we'll take one final break. We'll come back, we'll wrap everything up, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll be right back.
From Seiko comes the world's first ever TV watch. And in the movie Octopussy, James Bond is never without it. The technological breakthrough in the classic 007 tradition. With a clear liquid crystal display screen. For the man who does everything with style. Seiko Quartz, the future never looked so good.
All right, so welcome back to Vintage Pop. So two great movies, one more fun than the other, but two really good movies nonetheless. Cobra and Nighthawks. Nighthawks 1981, Cobra 1986. Definitely some essential Stallone I think you need to check out.
I think both are worth seeing. For wear different pants for when you do watch them.
It's different. It's interesting to see where Stallone was at in both of those times.
Yeah. He had. I think he'd gotten more popcorn by the time of Cobra. I think that shows.
Oh yeah, and I think you can see where his diva status kind of starts to, definitely by Cobra. I mean, we talked very briefly about how he was kind of a pain in the ass to work with in Nighthawks.
I believe he was on Cobra too.
I'm sure he was in Cobra.
Like he had some sort of rule where no one's allowed to talk to him or something like that.
One thing we did not mention about Cobra is it's directed by George P. Cosmatos, who also directed First Blood Part 2.
Yes.
And who also was very generous to Stallone and the camera in that movie as well.
Yes. He didn't do much else. I looked up. There was 2 movies he had done after Cobra. It was Tombstone.
Okay.
Which is really good.
Which is probably like one of his probably more notable movies. I would say.
Last movie too.
Yeah.
And then Leviathan.
I've heard of that.
That's late 80s. It's when they had all the underwater monster movies like Deep Star 6 and The Abyss. That came out in between it.
Is The Abyss a horror movie?
No, but Deep Star 6 is, and Leviathan is. And it's Peter Weller. It's pretty good. I actually saw it in the theater. Peter Weller's in it, Ernie Hudson. It's a lot of random faces. And it's Daniel Stern's in it.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a monster, but they take it a little bit of it. It's like a lot of other movies, but a little different.
Okay.
It's entertaining. It's not a classic, but it's good.
So I guess we'll just turn it. I'll start with you first. We'll just, since we kind of touched on everything that's upcoming in the last show. I know Splatterfest definitely is it September 5th?
September 1st.
It's the first Saturday of September.
Yeah,
for sure.
First Saturday of September.
And if you follow us on Facebook, we actually have a Facebook group, Vintage Pop on Facebook. I've been posting the event every time it kind of comes up that when they post it, I post it.
That's the next big thing. I don't think there's any big screenings coming out between then.
No.
Oh, didn't there something at that drive-in, the Mahoning?
Well, that's where our friends Brennan and Annie were this weekend, Schlakorama.
Yes.
That was this past
Isn't there
weekend.
a slasher one coming up there?
Is there a slasher one? I would go to that. I know they did a John Carpenter one. They did, and I guess we'll just look it up. Actually, here's the events right now.
Right now they have what we just saw, Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I just looked up at my events. So this Wednesday at 7 o'clock at the Roxy in Philadelphia, they're going to be showing Dog Day Afternoon.
I haven't seen that for a while. I'd like to rewatch.
And that's a BYO screening, which basically you can actually bring your own beer or whatever if you're into that type of thing, which is kind of cool because you don't have to pay for drinks while you're there. The only reason I wouldn't go is just because it's going to be a digital projection.
You're not crazy about that.
I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to go see something that's older out in a movie theater,
it should be 35.
It should be 35. Otherwise, what's the difference from me sitting and watching it on laser or Blu-ray or something like that?
Okay, I found out what Mahoning. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I don't know either.
It's Mahoning Drive-In Theater. They're having Camp Blood, which is where they do 2 days of slasher movies.
Okay.
So the first day, so it's Friday, August 24th, they're doing Friday 13th Part 2, which is a good entry.
I guess so. Yeah.
Not my favorite.
I don't know if I would have started off the marathon.
Some
with
people love that one.
I don't know why.
I do. I mean,
it's okay.
There's some iconic stuff in there. The scene at the end with Mrs. Voorhees' head, that's pretty iconic.
Half the counselors are off the campground though for a lion's share of the movie.
I think there's some missed opportunities, but I think overall it's a good movie. So it's 3 movies the first night. So Friday 2, My Bloody Valentine, the original from '81, which I think is a great movie.
I still haven't seen it. So I have a Betamax copy of it.
You haven't seen it?
And the mastering on the tape was wrong, so I can't watch it.
I would actually recommend you watch my DVD version of it because it has the gore that was removed from the original version.
That would not probably be in my 1982 Paramount Betamax.
And it makes a big difference. It makes the movie a lot better. And then they round out the first night with Tourist Trap.
That's a good movie.
That's a great movie. I think that's a weird PG movie. It's very intense.
Yeah.
So then the second night, Saturday, August 25th, I think the lineup's not as good. So first is The Mutilator from 1984.
I have not watched it.
It's not good.
A lot of people get all hot and bothered by that movie.
It's not fun.
It's I think it's one of those hype horror movies. I think
it has a great poster.
Yeah,
the poster is by hook, by axe, by something else, by
yeah,
which is great, but.
Apparently, the director is very active with the community. Buddy Cooper, who directed it, he's apparently got
he's actually. It says here he's in attendance.
Yeah, he loves that movie. He's got tons of posters in his garage, and he's
all he's done, and that's great and all. But I saw they played that at one of the Exhumed horror-thons. I mean, I saw it back in the day on video. There's supposed to be a longer cut of it. I don't know if it's going to make a difference because there's some bad acting.
Yeah, I have a Vestron cut box VHS of it.
I would recommend not watching it.
Yeah.
Following that is 1987 Slaughterhouse, which I've watched recently on Prime, and it's not great, not awful, but not great. And then lastly, and this is a weird one to throw on there, Freddy vs. Jason.
Ew.
You don't like that?
I mean, for what they're doing, no.
For this, it doesn't fit. It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too new school.
Yeah.
I like it on its own merits. I saw that in the theater.
That was the first and only actual Robert Englund nightmare movie that I was able to even see in a theater.
Okay. So that's August 24th. Then they have, on September 21st, they're doing a Gremlins double feature, Gremlins 1 and 2.
Is it wrong for me to say I like 2 more than I like 1?
No, I think a lot of people say that.
2's fun.
I think they're both fantastic movies. I'm going to give 1 the edge.
Yeah.
1 was very subversive back at that time. That's one of the movies that led to the PG-13 rating.
Well, yeah.
And I was 8 when that came out, and that was a big deal, and the gore in that.
The advertising, too, did not make it seem like it was as scary as it was.
No, it was marketed at kids. And they marketed Gizmo as a doll for kids and stuff. So that's a fun double feature. If you've never seen those movies, I think they'd be... 2's more of a comedy, I think.
Gremlins scared me growing up.
Sure.
The end scene, the whole thing in the department store at the end.
I think the first one is definitely more of a horror movie. The second one's definitely goofier.
Yeah.
So those two, otherwise, there's the other stuff they have coming up doesn't sound accurate. Oh, well, there's one, a Universal Monster Mash. That's August 3rd. Let's see what that is.
It's probably Frankenstein.
So
Dracula.
This looks like it's 2 nights, August 3rd and 4th. And so on August 3rd, they're showing, Dracula and Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then August 4th, it's Frankenstein and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Do they say whether those are 35s? Or
yes.
Digital?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh wow! So Dracula on 35, if that's a pretty old print to have kicking around.
That would be 80.
No, I mean it could have been a reproduced print. I mean, but still, even if it's a reproduced print, say the 40s and 50s when they revived all those things, that's still even that print we saw of Creature at Phoenixville at the Colonial Theater. That had to be a 60-year-old print. So.
Probably, yeah.
All right. So what have you been watching lately?
So I saw Unfriended Dark Web in the theater, which I liked the first one quite a bit. I thought it was fun.
I didn't see the first one.
Supernatural. This one is not, but it's the same thing. It's not as mean-spirited. The first one's more mean-spirited. The kids kind of turn on each other. This one's not so much. Also, one of those movies gets spoiled if you watch too much of the preview. I'd seen the preview and a lot of stuff, and it gives away a little too much. But overall, it was good. Beyond that, I've been watching a lot of TV. So I just watched all the episodes of The Sinner.
I've never... What is that?
I believe that's Jessica Biel.
Okay.
And she is a woman who freaks out one day on the beach and stabs a guy to death.
So that's a streaming show. I don't think is that
It was on
network?
USA.
Okay.
It's now on Netflix, so it's been a year. So she murders a guy on a beach, and as opposed to a whodunit, it's a why did she do it?
Okay.
So like she's kind of blanked. Bill Pullman's in it as a cop.
Oh, okay.
And she's actually they're doing a second season, and it's going to follow him in another case. It was good. I watched. It's 8 episodes. I watched those all pretty quickly. Otherwise, I started watching Atlanta. With I'm a couple years late on that, but that's Donald Glover.
Okay.
Living in Atlanta, so it's black culture. It's a comedy.
Now is that Hulu or Netflix?
It's on Hulu. It's
Okay.
FX.
Okay.
So
yeah, you're
I don't
right,
have basic cable, so I'm always so FX stuff shows up like a year later on Hulu. So I'm just getting through the first season. I believe there's 2 seasons. There's going to be a third one. That's a great show. It's funny. I like Donald Glover.
Yeah.
I just started watching Sharp Objects on HBO.
Okay. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Amy Adams.
That looks great.
If you like True Detective, it's in the same vein.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her character is a little scuzzy.
Okay.
She drinks a lot. She has issues. They do some neat stuff. So I like movies and TV shows. They'll do subliminal things in it, so you think you see something. They do stuff with words popping up on things.
Okay.
Like at one point, so the plot of it is there's that she's a reporter and her boss wants her to investigate a murder in her hometown. She's estranged from her hometown, so it's her going back. So at one point they show her driving, and the street sign for the highway says "last exit before you can turn back." Real quick.
Okay.
So it does stuff like that. And lastly, I started watching on Hulu Castle Rock.
Okay.
Which is it takes place in Stephen King land.
Okay.
So Stephen King, but he doesn't write it; other people write it. But it's good so far. I've watched 2 episodes. Got some creepy stuff. Terry Quinn pops up in it.
Oh, he's stepfather, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's in it. Melanie Leninsky, who I like a lot. She's in a lot of things.
Okay.
She was in Heavenly Creatures way back in the day.
Yeah.
She's in a lot of stuff. She's kind of cute. Does a lot of genre stuff. And it's Stephen King stuff and Stephen King characters. Alan Pangborn, who is a character in The Dark Half and Needful Things, played by Ed Harris in Needful Things, is played by Scott Glenn on here, which I think is kind of funny because they were in The Right Stuff together. It's fun. You like Stephen King. You should watch it. So what have you been watching?
For the first time ever, I watched 48 Hours.
Yes, you enjoyed that.
I think it's actually, I know you don't like Beverly Hills Cop. I like Beverly Hills Cop, but I do think it's better than Beverly Hills Cop.
It's a great movie.
Definitely has a real edge in the screenwriting that you don't really see too much nowadays.
That's Walter Hill. Walter Hill.
Yeah.
You feel the Walter Hill in that movie.
Yeah. But like I said to you before that, the guy that there's another podcast I listen to called 80s All Over. And they interviewed Steve D'Souza, who wrote the script for that and Die Hard. And Walter Hill apparently takes a little more credit for the writing than, what he actually wrote for 48 Hours. Obviously, I don't know either of these people, but like it's obvious just hearing talking heads and everything going, and like the same, like if you were to watch a documentary or something like that. But apparently a lot of the humor is D'Souza on that.
Okay.
But I mean, even the humor is kind of like, it's not it's not Beverly Hills Cop.
Of course.
It's not.
No, it's not as loose or not as funny.
And I've been watching Kojak.
Oh, on Hulu?
Yeah.
So you've been watching?
I like me some Kojak.
How many episodes?
Like 3.
Okay.
I
was watching on Hulu there for a minute, and I kind of go back to it. Taxi's on there.
Is it on there?
Yeah, and you ever watch that show?
No, but that's got Andy Kaufman, right?
It's such a good sitcom. It's watching it. I don't know. I guess Mary Tyler Moore Show was a workplace sitcom before.
Yeah, it was like a television station,
yeah,
I think.
But a lot of the things they have on there, I think so the main character. So you got Judd Hirsch and Mary Lou Henner as, but they're not hooking up.
Right.
And I think that was kind of...
Was it like implied or...
No, they weren't hooking up at all. So
Okay.
they were just platonic characters. I think normally if you had female and male characters on a TV show, they'd be somehow romantically engaged.
Yeah.
These two weren't. And I think it's a fun show. I remember watching it as a kid and watching it now. It's just like, it's well written.
Christopher Lloyd's in it.
He's so great.
Jeff Conway, who played Kaneki in Grease.
Yeah, Jeff Conway's someone where you get a little sad about
Yeah.
how he ended up. But
Yeah.
everyone else.
There's a movie he did in the late 80s. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's I think it's called A Time to Kill. It's got Tracy Lords in it.
It's not the John Grisham.
No.
Matthew McConaughey movie.
No. I have the VHS of it. It's all red. Like, it's a completely red tape. But, like, basically, she gets set up for like having cocaine planted on her. She's like a struggling mother, and he's the cop that's like trying to help her. She's in the middle of something, but it turns out that like the cops are bad. It's a bad movie.
Like not even fun to watch.
One time just to go, okay, I've seen it. That's it.
Yeah, interesting.
So, all right. Well, down the docket, we've been talking a couple different things. We talked Stephen King, maybe.
Might do Stephen King.
What else?
We've been kicking around some Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
nothing too.
We'll get something nailed out for that. I mentioned Elmore Leonard.
Yeah, you want to do Elmore Leonard movies, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk you down from Jackie Brown.
You don't like Jackie Brown?
I like Jackie Brown. I think Tarantino in general has been discussed. Plus, it's a '90s movie.
Yeah, that's true. And then, but what
I
other?
think he's got some interesting stuff in the '80s. So I actually just recently I read a lot of his books. They're quick, breezy, great reads.
Yeah.
And I just read Mr. Majestic, and that's a Charles Bronson movie.
That's Elmore Leonard?
Yes.
Wow.
There's a lot of stuff he's done.
Okay.
You'd be
I'll have to take a peek then.
So Stick he did, which was
That's Burt
Reynolds.
I have
but
that.
The novel's named something else. I forget what it is off the top of my head. 52 Pickup with Roy Schneider, I think would be worth watching.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it,
No.
That's Elmore Leonard.
Okay.
He's got a lot of movies that said I'm going to strongly recommend just something besides Jackie Brown. Because the people know Jackie Brown.
I think it's
highlight movies.
I think it's Tarantino's best plot-driven movie.
Maybe.
I think as a screenplay goes, it's not like let's jump over to this
that's
flashback.
Because
Let's
it's
do this.
Elmore Leonard's story.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure
Rum Punch is the novel that's based off of it. It's very close.
And and I guess you're right. He hasn't really adapted too much. I mean, that's probably his only adapted screenplay, Jackie Brown.
I think technically Inglourious Bastards is a remake, and so is Django.
So, yeah, but they're completely different movies.
Yeah,
but
no, Jackie Brown follows Rum Punch, the book, the source, very closely.
So
I just think, if we're going to do Elmore Leonard, let's do something
all right.
a little more obscure.
Well, we'll be back on that, but so before we go, some contact information. Please, if you're a new listener, there's a new guy that listens to the show. Talk to me a little bit from Delaware, Scott Marvel.
Oh, yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he said some nice things, so thanks for checking out the show. Good comments and stuff like that.
He is a movie fan.
Yeah, and enjoyed
He has strong opinions.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if anybody's new to the show, please review us on iTunes. Just a quick, even if you're not going to write a full-length review, you can just click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, hopefully.
You just relaunched my iTunes, so I'm going to go in and review it.
Yeah.
I was off iTunes for a while.
So that's the best way that can kind of get the podcast out into the open for more people other than, and the word of mouth has been great, kind of other people that talk to other people, and that's how the show's been growing as of right now.
Sure.
We have a Facebook group. It's at Vintage Pop on Facebook. When you type it in, you'll see a picture of like an old Zenith TV ad, and that's the artwork. There's a little bit of conversation going there. More the merrier. Keep the conversations going. You can email us at vintagepopcast@gmail.com with suggestions, maybe some show topics, some stuff you might want us to cover. Would definitely like to read some of those off on the air. And always the show notes, the best place to do that is to check them out at the blog page at vintagepop-podcast at blogspot.com. So I think that's it. And thanks again for joining me again, Rich, for a great show.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it. We'll talk to you next time on Vintage Pop. Have a great week.